Tonight, that glimmer of hope just got a whole lot brighter. New figures show the economic decline has slowed dramatically. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, running on empty. The Cash for Clunkers program proves so popular, Congress has to rush in with an emergency refill of cash. How the company at the center of the mortgage meltdown curried friends in the very highest places. We'll follow the money. And a town that operates on the honor system. Steve Hartman puts it to the test.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. We're beginning tonight with the economy because the bad news is actually getting better. The government reported today that the economy continued to shrink in the second quarter of this year, but only 1% this time, and that's a big improvement. It had contracted more than 6 times as much in the first quarter. So there's the latest evidence. The recession is easing. Anthony Mason has more.
The economy contracted for the 4th straight quarter this spring, but the pace of decline slowed sharply, and at last it looks like the worst is over.
Today's GDP is an important sign that the economy is headed in the right direction.
But you're convinced now that we're coming out of this thing?
Absolutely convinced.
Economist Michael Darda believes the recovery will be stronger than expected. He's forecasting a healthy 4% growth rate next year.
Even in the 1930s, the worst and longest recessions the world's ever seen, the recoveries out of those recessions were robust.
Wall Street appears to agree. The stock market closed out its best July in 20 years as the Dow rallied more than 8% for the month on rising corporate profits.
So this is the upper rooftop deck.
Camille Syria feels the tide is turning.
Where you could have cocktails down in the cocktail lounge.
She plans parties and events aboard ships in New York Harbor.
This is a luxury business.
Absolutely it is.
But you're seeing a rebound.
I definitely am, thankfully.
Her
Yes.
corporate clients have started calling again.
I honestly feel that this year is going to be a much better year than we had anticipated.
But another economic barometer is cloudy. In Fort Edwards, New York, Clint Binley makes shipping pallets.
If we're doing well and shipping a lot of products, that means the economy is shipping a lot of products to their customers.
But after watching his business drop by nearly 25%, Binley is seeing only hints of a turnaround.
Well, it's not dead, but it's certainly not robust either.
So Binley, who's reduced his staff by a quarter, isn't thinking about rehiring yet.
And nationally, the unemployment rate is expected to continue to rise even as the economy turns around. So when we do finally get a recovery, for many Americans, it won't feel much like one. Katie?
Having said that, you are delivering a bit of good news tonight.
And it's my pleasure.
So thank you for that, Anthony. One way the government is trying to boost the economy is with the so-called Cash for Clunkers program. It's designed to get Americans buying cars again, and it's working so well that in this first week of the trade-in program, the $1 billion Congress allocated for it is already gone. Now, that made dealers nervous, and the House today quickly approved $2 billion more. Here's Jeff Glor.
With a nickname so catchy, it's not hard to see why Cash for Clunkers captured so much attention. By one auto industry estimate, more than 200,000 cars sold in 1 week.
But I'm happy to report that it has succeeded well beyond our expectations and all expectations.
It's a lot more complicated than we thought.
But for car dealers, success is a relative term. Jim Russimano at Nutley Chevrolet in northern New Jersey sold 3 extra cars this week, thanks to the government's $1 billion rebate program. But the website where Russimano and thousands of other dealers are supposed to file claims was still crashing today, and he's worried he's cutting deals that might not get reimbursed.
I don't know that there's any dealers that are in a position that they can afford to lose $3,500 or $4,500 in the deal they've already written.
The program, which offers drivers of old, qualifying gas guzzlers $3,500 to $4,500 toward the purchase of new, more fuel-efficient vehicles, was also criticized for being too complicated. The qualifications ran 8 pages long. Keeping track of sales seems just as complicated.
Is there objection?
Last night, the government threatened to suspend the program after fears it burned through all its money well before the scheduled November 1st end date.
Nobody is really sure exactly how much money has been spent
and whether or not the program has already run out of money. The White House quickly said no, keep going. And this afternoon, the House temporarily shelved other business to set aside an extra $2 billion for the program.
Cash for clunkers.
With notable dissent.
Maybe we should have a Cash for Cluckers program and pay people to eat chicken.
Still, it passed by 2/3 majority.
The bill is passed without objection.
And sales continue flowing. This New York dealership was writing 8 clunker deals today alone.
So while there clearly has been confusion about the program from dealers and consumers, there's no question it's driven up foot traffic and sales inside dealerships, which makes them happy, and they could be getting even more money. Katie?
All right, Jeff Glor. Jeff, thank you. One more note about cars tonight. Honda is recalling 440,000 of them to fix a defect that can cause their airbags to rupture in an accident. Metal fragments from those ruptured airbags have hit some drivers and passengers, causing at least one death. The recall includes 2001 and 2002 Accords, 01 Civics, and 02 and 03 Acura TL sedans. Turning to Washington now, where the Obama administration is taking stock after 6 months in office and looking ahead. This evening, the president and vice president walked over to Blair House, where they're hosting a kind of retreat for members of the cabinet this weekend. Aides say it will be a chance for them to bond and talk about the president's agenda. John Dickerson in our Washington bureau is a CBS News political analyst. John, a recent CBS New York Times poll shows that only 46% of the American public approves of the way the president's handling health care reform. What is he likely to hear from cabinet members about that in this meeting?
What they're going to discuss is how the president can get the message back on health care. He agrees with the public. Everybody agrees that there is something wrong with the current healthcare system. The problem is the public doesn't agree with the president's cure for that problem.
There's also been criticism that President Obama has left too much of the nitty-gritty of healthcare reform to Congress. Was that a flawed approach?
Well, the approach was to avoid the mistakes of the Clinton experience in '93 and '94. And the gamble the White House made is if we allow Congress to do its work, that will benefit us in the end when we're trying to put together a piece of legislation. The downside, of course, is that the president loses control of the public message. And what people hear is talk about dollar signs in Congress and not about whether they're going to be able to keep their doctor, keep their health insurance. And that's the message the president is trying to get back to.
How's the president feel he's doing on the economy? I'm sure there is going to be a lot of discussion about that in these meetings.
The White House feels pretty good today about the economy. They got a good number on the gross domestic product. It didn't shrink as much as some people had thought. The president came out and made a statement saying this is because of the Recovery Act. They're very happy to be able to crow a little bit about the success of the Recovery Act.
Having said that, they're being careful not to crow too much.
Absolutely. You talk to White House officials, and they always mention mission accomplished, which was the banner the Bush administration put up with Iraq that turned out not to be the case. They don't want to crow too much. They know people are still out there hurting.
All right. John Dickerson. John, thanks very much.
Thanks, Katie.
In other news, First Lady Michelle Obama praised America's military families today as, quote, quiet heroes. She spoke in Norfolk, Virginia at the homecoming for the aircraft carrier USS Eisenhower, which is just back from the Middle East. In Afghanistan, meanwhile, the U.S. military says 2 more Americans have been killed in the war against the Taliban. That brings the U.S. death toll for July to at least 43, the deadliest month of the war. And according to the UN, more than 1,000 civilians were killed in the first half of the year, up 24% from last year. All of this as Afghanistan prepares for next month's presidential election. Mandy Clark went on patrol with U.S. soldiers hunting for terrorists who want to sabotage the process.
No village is too remote for Task Force Yukon's pre-election surge. A 300-strong battalion from the 25th Infantry Division is conducting missions as part of Operation Champion Sword. This push around the eastern city of Khost involves a number of targeted missions.
I got a locked door.
Hunting day and night for the bomb makers and the weapons used to disrupt the upcoming presidential elections on August 20th. At this village, the target had fled, but soldiers take fingerprints and eye scans of local villagers in case they're involved in planting explosives.
Get their fingerprints, so when they find IEDs, they can get fingerprints off of that, and that'll help to build a packet so you can further detain them.
On another mission, soldiers found a hidden weapons cache in a ravine. This is exactly what they're looking for, Taliban weaponry. The only thing they can do with it is destroy it to make sure it doesn't go back in Taliban hands. Those soldiers are trying to stop insurgent activity and encourage locals to participate in the elections. Many are still wary.
Are they planning to vote?
No, I will not vote, he says, because the Taliban will find out. The Taliban threat is one these soldiers understand on a personal level. Task Force Yukon is also Private Bo Bergdahl's unit, the soldier who went missing June 30th and is being held captive by the Taliban. The unit now splits their time between election security and searching for their missing soldier. While they're unwilling to talk about the hunt or theories on how he was captured, they do say it's an operation they will not give up on. Mandy Clark, CBS News, Coast.
And coming up next, a CBS News investigation. Did Countrywide Financial give special treatment to government VIPs, hoping to get the same in return? Countrywide Financial was the lender at the heart of the mortgage meltdown, but when business was booming, one whistleblower says the company went looking to influence the powerful in Washington, including members of Congress and a host of others. Cheryl Atkinson has this Follow the Money investigation.
At the height of the subprime boom, perhaps nobody gave out more risky loans than Countrywide Financial.
As America's #1 home loan lender,
but while the government debated how to regulate the mortgage industry, Countrywide pursued a shrewd strategy, attempt to curry favor among influential people by offering them sweetheart loans. Special terms included knocking a full point or 1% off a loan. On a $2 million VIP mortgage, that's a perk worth $20,000.
And that was the whole idea. It wasn't just to give them a good deal, it was to make sure they knew, or at least they believed, that they were getting a special deal.
Anthony Salerno represents former Countrywide executive Bob Feinberg. He worked in the VIP section that offered preferential treatment to so-called Friends of Angelo, customers referred personally by CEO Angelo Mazzillo. That includes Senators Kent Conrad and Chris Dodd, who just happens to head the committee that oversees the mortgage industry. They each received at least 2 VIP loans and are subject of a Senate ethics investigation. They declined our interview requests but have denied wrongdoing in other interviews.
I did absolutely nothing unethical here.
No special deals. No one ever offered one.
But CBS News has learned that Countrywide's VIP program went far beyond 2 senators. VIP mortgages were given to President Clinton's former housing secretary, Henry Cisneros, and President Bush's housing secretary, Alphonso Jackson. Jackson's daughter even got VIP loan status when an internal Countrywide email noted her father is expected to be confirmed as Secretary of HUD. Also on the list, Franklin Raines, then CEO of Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae bought billions in toxic Countrywide loans that defaulted at taxpayer expense. And former Fannie Mae CEO James Johnson, one-time advisor to President Obama. Some of the most flagrant connections were with the House Financial Services Committee, which had oversight authority over Countrywide. Clinton Jones, a chief counsel for the committee, got VIP treatment, and internal Countrywide emails leave no doubt as to why. Jones is an advisor to ranking Republican members of Congress responsible for legislation of interest to the industry and of importance to Countrywide. A committee aide asked Countrywide to help his sister and brother-in-law after they got turned down for refinancing. Countrywide obliged, calling the staffer an aide to a senior member of the House Financial Services Committee, a big supporter of Countrywide's and very important to us. Congressman Darrell Issa is spearheading a House investigation.
This is a pretty vast attempt to influence government that did not benefit the American people in this meltdown of the economy around the world.
Democrats are blocking a Republican effort to subpoena Countrywide documents. Some of the people named in this report have said they didn't know they were getting preferential treatment. For now, it's unclear whether there was anything illegal and whether Countrywide was able to fend off regulations by winning favor with the right people. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington.
And continuing now with the Follow the Money theme, attention taxpayers, Your photos are ready. The Air Force today released 146 photographs from that infamous Air Force One flight to New York in April. The idea of the flight was to snap new publicity pictures of the presidential jet at national monuments like the Statue of Liberty. But the low-flying 747 scared New Yorkers and led to the firing of the White House official who approved the photo op. The Air Force says the 3-hour flight with military escort cost taxpayers more than $300,000. All along the East Coast, the most sought-after accessories this summer have been an umbrella and rubber boots. Just take a look at the washout coming over the next couple of days. And that's only the latest in a series of ruined weekends. National correspondent Jim Axelrod looks at a different kind of summertime blues.
The latest chapter in the Northeast story of wild summer weather is being written in New York State's Catskill Mountains, where another 4 inches of rain produced flooding, rescues, and a state of emergency.
This was rapids. I mean, just rapids, people yelling, sirens going, firemen saying time to evacuate.
25 miles north of Manhattan, just the threat of thunderstorms shut down the Rye Playland amusement park today for the 11th time this summer.
Nobody that works here now, and I have some folks that have been here for 41 years, can remember a season like this one.
In Massachusetts, more than 130 beaches closed when heavy rains overwhelmed sewer systems, spilling wastewater into lakes. More bad weather fallout.
In some areas, it's been much wetter than normal. That's generally from New York City up towards southern New England, where we've seen lots of rain during the month of June and July.
Portland, Maine's had its wettest June and July on record. It's been the second wettest ever in New York and Albany, the third wettest in Providence and Hartford. In this summer of chainsaw cleanups and weird hailstorms that have made the Northeast look like Christmas in July, add one more oddity. Today marks the second time since 1869 that Central Park hasn't hit 90 degrees at least once in June or July. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
Overseas, Corazon Aquino, the former president of the Philippines, died today of colon cancer. She was 76. In her trademark yellow suits, Aquino led the People Power revolution that swept dictator Ferdinand Marcos from office in 1986. She was a reluctant leader, getting into politics only after her husband, an opposition leader, was assassinated. Corazon Aquino served as president for 6 years. And still ahead, Steve Hartman went on vacation, and all we got was, well, a darn good Assignment America. And finally tonight, where would a guy like Steve Hartman spend his summer vacations? Well, it would have to be an unusual place, the kind he'd find on Assignment America.
On the southern shore of Lake Erie sits the tiny town of Lakeside, Ohio. I know about this quaint little summer spot because my family has been vacationing here forever. We started coming back when I was still living in my parents' crib, by which I mean crib. I learned how to swim here, got my first shuffleboard trophy here. I even took this same music class. But what makes this place really special to me, what sets it apart from almost every other town in America, is that here in Lakeside, people still actually trust one another. Where else in America does somebody find a $20 bill and put up signs telling you where you can claim it? This town is so trusting. In all my years, I've never seen anyone lock their bike.
Is it surprising to some people when they come here for the first time?
Oh, yes. They can't believe it.
You tell them you don't need a lock?
You don't need a lock.
Jackie Seifert runs Seifert Cycles. When you rent a bike from her, she doesn't ask for a driver's license, credit card, nothing. She just trusts you to bring it back.
We've never had a bike stolen in 28 years.
Never?
Never. If you expect the best from people, that's what you're going to receive.
It's the honors system, and this whole town seems to operate on it. A lot of the stores leave their merchandise out all night.
You have a little box there where people can put in the payment.
Yeah, just a mail slot.
And people really do that?
Yeah.
This is Robert Retzky.
Now, yesterday I went to the doctor's office. This morning I had 3 envelopes on the floor.
3 envelopes.
At Marilyn's place, they even trust the proverbial kid in a candy store. The owner, Marilyn Burns, has a jar and a note that says, "We trust you. You are an honest and wonderful child of God. Wait on yourself and make your own change."
We've had kids come in from like the inner city, and they'll stand on the other side of the counter and say, "What do you mean you trust us?"
I've always been a bit skeptical myself of this one, so I set up a hidden camera to see if I could catch someone red licorice handed.
How much are these? Don't ask me, but they're tiny.
Dozens of kids came and went,
Those are 5 cents.
and they all paid, right down to the penny. This week, my son George got his first taste of Lakeside. And although the character of the place didn't impress him nearly as much as the radio in the rental car, my hope is that the more he grows, the more he will appreciate Lakeside. And that the more he changes, the more his vacation spot doesn't. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Lakeside, Ohio.
George is getting big. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric in New York. Thank you for watching this week. Jeff Glor will be here tomorrow, and I'll see you again on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend and good night.